brother. It's time for another episode of Birds with Friends. Just a trio of feathery brethren, weathering any season to see the Eagles eating teams like Scrammy's top with cheese. It's Philadelphia. Bo, Sheil, and Zach kicking it cooler than 3 penguins till Zach runs off with his valet keys. He's a real nuanced goose. Pull up a branch, get loose. It's time for some juice on some
Birds with Friends.
The early bird gets the worm, but prefers getting turned like a turn on some
Birds with Friends.
Bo, Sheil, and Zach coming at you with stats and things flapping their wings on
Birds with Friends.
All I know is Zach said he has a game where Sheil don't read both 7,000 words, and I said I'm in. Let's go. Let's do it.
And so the purpose of
that's what I needed was not to get at least one more reader. It's the 4th annual Osprey Awards, the biggest night in entertainment where all the stars come together to celebrate the year that was for concussion knuckles and aunties alike. Let's head down to the red carpet, where the stars of the night are mingling in a responsibly distant manner. Look, there's former James Madison quarterback Ben DiNucci dressed up like Santa Claus. It looks like he's talking to a giant anthropomorphic mug? Oh my, what a gag. Here comes Marissa Morris popping up for air after her sip of coffee. And here comes Zach Berman on his bicycle. It looks like Lance Armstrong is trailing behind him. Check out those calves. This is a big night for the big Australian Jordan Mailata, who was nominated 8 times, including for the coveted Emperor Penguin Award. There he is, strutting down the red carpet, guitar in hand, and who is that behind him? Why, it looks like none other than Christopher Hewitt, the guy who played Mr. Belvedere himself. That's nice. He's walking over to say hi to Carson Wentz, who's warming the bench. Oh no! Mr. Belvedere, don't sit down! Well, I guess that means it's time to head inside. Let's fire up the Ospreys.
Hello, everybody.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the 2021 Ospreys. That was a fantastic opening. I am not your host. I am your, what do you call it? When the backup to the star on Broadway?
The understudy.
Yeah, I'm the understudy. You know, if there were technical difficulties, if there was an emergency, I was to be called on. And as you can see, our host, Bo Wolf, is having some technical difficulties, visiting some family, maybe not the strongest Wi-Fi connection. Maybe they need some Netgear, but Zach, you will fill us in on that later today. So I guess I should ask you, Zach, and you, Marissa, before we get started with the official show, how are you doing today?
I will cede the floor to Marissa. How are you today?
I'm doing great. I hope everyone likes the intro. I probably spent a little too long on that this afternoon, but it was very funny, and it was voiced by Bo, who we're trying to get back here, I promise. Oh, we just totally lost him. But yeah, doing great. How are you guys?
Everything is good. And, you know, this is sort of like when you have a rain delay for a baseball game and, you know, you're looking forward to something and the terrible programming comes on. So let's do that while we wait on Bo. We apologize to everyone, but listen, I did not write a monologue or anything like that in opening. This was the first time where Bo said, you guys don't have to prepare at all. Just dress appropriately, which we all did. So Zach, let's knock out some, we can knock out some Eagles nuggets while we wait for Bo. For those in the audience, the two of you, maybe fewer than that, who care about that right now. Where are we in Eaglesville right now as we approach free agency? Any news, any notes here as we get ready for the start of the new league year?
Sure. Since the last time we all convened, the big news came on Friday when Jason Kelce announced that he will return for the 2021 season. It will be his 11th year with the Eagles, and he redid his deal, which would give the Eagles some short-term cap relief and certainly helps Jason Kelce, I imagine, going forward as well. It's been a good week in Jason Kelce's life. He had his second child, his daughter. He also got his first vaccine, and so the Eagles are getting their center, Jason Kelce, back next season. That's the biggest news on the Eagles front. They made a few minor transactions yesterday afternoon. Blake Countess, Hassan Ridgeway were both released. That is a little bookworking thing. Both those guys signed the futures deals, but because they're veterans, they would have counted in the top 51. So this actually pushes, and when I say top 51, starting on March 17th, only your top 51 salaries count against the salary cap. So that will give them some cap relief there. Also, some players have restructured their deals. The NFL Network reported today Isaac Seumalo restructured his deal, so that gives the Eagles some cap relief. And then one thing to watch, Sports Illustrated reported that Brandon Brooks' name has come up in trade conversations. So I think those are the big news items since we last convened.
So a couple interesting things on that, Bo. If you are, whenever you are able to join us, just let us know, and we will go straight into Ospreys mode. Bo actually forwarded his speech to Marissa, who forwarded it to me, and I read the first two sentences and decided I cannot read. There's no way I'm reading this, and so we will wait for Bo to deliver his monologue. But on Eagles news, you know what's interesting, Zach? I've got a piece coming up on The Athletic tomorrow where I am pairing the top 50 free agents with teams. It's a piece I like doing every year, sort of a predictions piece. You know, it kind of lets you know who might be available for which teams might be the biggest players. And one thing that really stood out, and this is going to sound weird because it's not like usually a premium position, but when you mentioned Brandon Brooks, I thought of it, is that the demand for guards among teams that have money is way higher than you would ever expect. I mean, really, there were basically two guards in my top 50, Joe Thuney of the Patriots and Brandon Scherf, who got franchise tagged. Those are the only two guards in the top 50. And if you go down, all these teams that have money, these teams that want to protect their quarterbacks, there's no supply to meet their demand. So initially, when I saw that Brooks report, I thought, get out of here. The guy's coming off a season-ending injury. He plays guard. How old is he? Is he 30 yet?
31, I believe.
31.
Yeah, 30,
okay.
Yeah, I believe so.
So I thought, no one is giving anything up for this. But as I did that exercise, I thought, there are teams out there. If you're a team, I feel like I mentioned the Chargers for every player. But if you're a team like the Los Angeles Chargers and it's like a mid-round pick for Brandon Brooks, you might consider doing that because really there are not a lot of great options, and especially options of his caliber out there on the market. And it's not just the Chargers. There are some other teams also. Bo, how are you doing?
Terrible. This is my worst nightmare.
Need some more time.
Literally my worst nightmare. Can you guys?
Wow. Yes, we can. Yes, we can. While both setting up, and on the topic of free agency, I don't know if this is an actual Osprey award. I certainly don't want to jump the gun, but best performance during free agency definitely goes to Sheil Kapadi. And I'm not just saying that to butter him up here. The content during the past 2 weeks has been outstanding, and I say that as someone reporting on free agency who has used it as a resource, but also as a football fan, right? Like every single position, these rankings, I'm looking forward to tomorrow's piece, like you said, matching them up. I would say to all our listeners, make sure you check out this free agency content because Sheil is cornering free agency coverage the way Dane Brugler is cornering draft coverage.
Well, thank you for that. I did notice that I was not included in that intro, so I'm sure there's another shoe to drop with Bo throwing something my way. So I'm not going to be taking a whiff or smelling myself just yet because I know there's going to be something else here. Jason Kelce, that news, I don't know if it surprised you at all, Zach, the way it was announced, where it was, hey, I'm coming back to lead the Philadelphia Eagles. I guess that surprised me a little bit, only because we had talked about the possibility that Jason Kelce could come back, but maybe approve a trade to a team like the Chiefs, or maybe even another team that he wanted to play for and really contend for a Super Bowl next year. But that was not the case. It sounds like he's going to come back and be ready to go right away. And as I was looking at, some of the needs of some of these teams, and you certainly have written about that at length, the Eagles, this is sort of weird because up front on both sides of the ball, they're like in better shape than most teams. If you go with the old Joe Banner, throw everyone else. Don't worry about anyone else. Just look at offensive line and defensive line. I don't know if it's top 5. I think there's certainly top 10 if you took like an aggregate of offensive and defensive line throughout the league. So I don't know. Does that mean that they might be a little bit better than we anticipate next year?
Well, the asterisk there is the asterisk is the injuries, right? Or are the injuries? Because that with the offensive line in particular, you have 3 players coming off major injuries. Maybe only 2 it's actually 4 players if you include Sayamalu. Then you obviously have Lane Johnson, Brandon Brooks, and then either if you're talking about Andre Dillard, it's 4. If you're talking about Jordan Mailata, it's 3. But when healthy, they could surprise in that regard because they are stout on the offensive line. They have continuity there, and they'll be able to be competitive with good line play if they are healthy. So that's the big thing. As far as Jason Kelce, Bo had that great piece back in 2019 that really showed what he goes through during a season. And in Kelce's case, I can't speak for him, but from all indications, he was on the healthier side this year compared to some previous years. So that certainly works to his advantage, right? Like his body's in good shape. I listened to the interview that he did with PhiladelphiaEagles.com, and he said he hasn't lost his desire to play. He's asked a lot of different people, when do you stop playing? When do you retire? And they say, when it's time to leave, you would know. And he doesn't know yet. So he took that to mean he still wants to play. And the other thing that he said was that he didn't want to end his Eagles time with the way last year went, right? And he is someone who takes I think he's a prideful Eagle, right? Like that means something to him. And so I could see, knowing Jason Kelce, that carrying some weight, that he didn't want to hand the offensive line off, hand the team off, if you will, after the way last year went. So for all those reasons, it is sensible. But the flip side, and it's what we discussed last week, like he's an all-pro. He's one of the top players, or I should say one of the top centers of his generation. And the Eagles are not Super Bowl contenders next year. A team like Kansas City would have been. They're going to be. So you could have seen a trade in that sense. But certainly the Eagles have a better offensive line going forward, knowing Jason Kelce's there.
Yeah, I haven't dove into this topic, but Kelce is not far off from a Hall of Fame discussion. If he, I don't know what it would take. Maybe it would take like 2. Again, I'm just saying this off the top of my head, so this could be wrong. In my head, it feels like if he were to put together 2 more Pro Bowl seasons, I think if you look at that compared to other interior offensive linemen who have gotten in the Hall of Fame, I wonder how that would compare. It's been sort of this weird career. I know when I did the feature on him a couple of years back, and I remember talking to members of his family, and they were basically like, a little annoyed that they felt like the Eagles wanted him out when they drafted Isaac Sayamalu. That like the writing was on the wall. They thought his career was over, and they were kind of shoving him out the door. And then he had this unbelievable renaissance and really has probably played, his best football of his career, you could say, over the last, 3 or 4 years. So that's I don't know if that's something that he thinks about or not, but how could you not when you're at this stage in your career?
On your all-decade team, where was he? I'm sorry, I don't recall, but that usually is a barometer for Hall of Fame candidacy.
I was trying to remember. He was definitely in the conversation. I want to say it was him. I think Alex Mack was probably in there.
Pouncey.
And Pouncey. I think those were the 3 centers. I think I was probably fighting a little bit for Kelce to be acknowledged there. But a short list of 3 for the decade. That would make you think that he's at least in the mix here. All right, there are some comments we should get to here. Stone Cold says outfit rankings. Marissa, number 1. 2, empty out of respect for Marissa. 3, Sheil. 4, Zach. 5, Bo. So okay. Marissa, you were telling us, you're not going to play this cool and act like you just threw something on. You gave thought to this, right?
Yeah. So, nobody's gone anywhere for a year now, basically. So I was like, wow, this is an excuse to actually go to the dresses part of my closet. So I was trying on a bunch of different dresses and checking how they looked on the Zoom, so 2021, right? But yeah, so I put a lot of thought into this because I haven't had an excuse to dress up for a while. So ready to get this fourth annual Ospreys going.
Well, Marissa's the clear number one. In my defense here, I am reading. This is a text message that I sent at 3:23 or 3:25 today. Bo, any prep work we need for tonight? Yes,
We can hear you typing. We can hear you everything about you. I know, frankly, I think we should keep it that way. Yeah.
I'm not,
Oh, you're not?
Static. This is a disaster.
Oh my gosh.
I'm gonna jump off a bridge. This is awful.
Please don't do that. Please don't do that.
Can you drive to like a local, coffee establishment that has Wi-Fi? Maybe just park in the parking lot. See if that holds up. Do you know anyone else? What do you want to tell people where you are? We could have a listener here, who's nearby. Maybe you could sit in their driveway with a mask on and connect to their Wi-Fi, or any of these options for you. Okay, does not look like any of those are going to be options.
So Bo is out of town with family.
Do we want to read the categories we have for tonight to get people that are still listening maybe a little excited for what we're going to get to?
Yeah. So wait. So I just want to finish this off. I said also. So I'm not out of dress code. Are you guys dressing up? That's what I texted. And Bo
Not
writes,
to me. Was I in on that?
Yeah, this was the Birds with Friends. Sheil didn't respond.
Oh,
okay. And Sheil didn't respond. And Bo said, I didn't pack a nice enough outfit, but I'll wear the best of what I have. And so I don't usually discuss with my wife what I'm going to wear for our podcast, right? But I'm thinking like I said, do I need to dress up for this? And I didn't want to go tie if you guys were not dressed up for it. I didn't quite know what the best Bo had packed was for this trip. So I figured that if I had the jacket and the shirt, worst case scenario, I can take off the jacket before and then I just have the button down. When I logged on, it was Sheil and Marissa were on, and I said, oh goodness, I am underdressed for the night. So I apologize for not bringing it tonight.
All right, let's do this. Marissa, send me over what was that, Bo?
Father-in-law's clothes.
Oh, they are, because somebody mentioned that Bo Def has a father-in-law tie on.
Father-in-law's clothes.
Oh, okay. Sharp-dressed man there. All right. So here, I think what we should do, so we don't lose the audience, is Marissa, maybe you can forward me the categories, in the awards, and we can throw some awards out there. We won't get to all of them before both.
Can you hear me now?
All right. Yeah, I can hear you.
Yep.
All right. Should I just do the intro?
Yeah, do the intro. We can hear you.
Yeah.
All right. What a nightmare. All right. And scene. Hello, everybody. How are we doing tonight? Good? Everybody's comfortable? What's that? It's a little cold in here? No, it's not the air conditioning. That's just the decision we made to sit Carson Wentz, Doug Peterson, Howie Roseman, and Jalen Hurts in the same section. There's more ice over there than at a Trump rally near the Mexican border. Ah, come on. I kid. Howie, how's the finger? Seriously, though, who could have imagined a year ago that Doug and Carson were both entering their final seasons with the Eagles? This, of course, is the 4th annual Osprey Awards, which, if you do the math, means the inaugural edition came after the Eagles won Super Bowl 52. Now they're coming off a 4-11-1 season in which they finished last in what might have been the worst division in NFL history. Never before has an institution done so much damage in only 4 extremely long years. These are weird times. We've got this COVID thing going on. You guys seen this? You heard about this?
Vaguely. Yes.
The pandemic kept fans out of the stands for most of the season, and we all spent more time inside than Greg Ward. I know a lot of Eagles fans wonder whether the course of the franchise could have been altered if only they had a chance to boo this team in person like they deserved. Would Carson Wentz have been able to turn things around before he got benched? Would Doug Peterson have been more aggressive or more creative with the offense? Would J.J. Arcega-Whiteside have remembered he existed? But right now, the city is more backed up with boos than that guy who sucker punched Dallas Goedert over the summer. What else is in the news? I saw something about that interview with the Royals over the weekend. I remember there was a time when it was sort of a meme on the Eagles Twitter account that Carson Wentz sort of looked like Prince Harry. But I guess that comparison is out the window now, since we know Prince Harry is allowed to talk. I believe the last time we heard from Carson was the night he was benched in favor of Jalen Hurts. And a lot has happened since then. He finished the season as a backup. Democracy nearly fell. Doug Peterson was fired. Nick Sirianni thanked Don Slawinski in his opening press conference. Carson agitated for a trade behind the scenes. Ted Cruz went to Cancun. Carson finally did get traded to Indianapolis. Marissa got engaged. And nothing. Not a peep from Carson. The guy went from junk to monk. I mean, he had 15 interceptions in 12 games and 10 fumbles to boot. He was like Oprah with all those giveaways. You see how we brought that around to the interview? That was good, right? And what's with this Colts fetish? I think the final ledger of moves since 2020 is Carson Wentz, Press Taylor, Noah Tongiai, and Mike Groh to the Colts in exchange for Nick Sirianni, Jonathan Gannon, Kevin Patullo, and Jason Michael. Now I hear Zach Ertz might be headed that way. What's next? The Mummers? In exchange for what? Tom Wolfe never being allowed alone in a room with a woman other than his wife? If Sirianni starts calling his wife mother, we'll know the deal is complete. And remember when Mike Pence went to that Colts game and just left during the anthem? I thought that was the most embarrassing performance I'd ever seen until what we like to call the Jamon Brown game. Anyway, we've got a lot to get to tonight, so I will wrap things up. 50 Ospreys will be doled out, including the first ever Cecil B. Duckbill Award for Lifetime Achievement. We've got a performance from Carly Rae Jepsen, and 5 nominees for the biggest award in podcasts are all here tonight, as Jordan Mailata, Travis Fulgham, Jason Kelce, Jalen Hurts, and Roger Goodell all vie for the Emperor Penguin Award as the king or queen of the 2020 season. And Roger, while I have you, I do want to apologize. I doubted you, and I doubted the avarice of the Shield, and for that, I'm sorry. I think we can all agree that no matter how many people were infected with a deadly disease in service of a game that puts its employees at significant long-term health risks, that definitely could have been postponed a few months for the better of the country, it was all worth it to finally.
Oh, missed the punchline. Oh, God.
Who wants to finish that for him? Sheil,
I don't know where he was going.
No, I can't. Let's save the timing now. I was at Zach.
Okay. I'll debut my new mug then.
Yes.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
To Marissa.
I didn't want to speak out of turn there, Marissa. So I at the top, I didn't congratulate you, but formally congratulations.
Thank you. I didn't know if Bo had something planned, so I didn't want to.
Lots of congrats coming in here in the chat from Marissa, the bling, the mug, the hardest working producer in America. So make sure, Marissa, you go back and read all those comments. Someone did. Does that
While
mug
I'm
say?
editing this tonight, and I'm like, oh my God.
Someone goes, does that mug say wifey?
It does.
It does.
So I wanted to get a put a ring on it one, but I didn't have enough time today. So this was the easiest pickup one I could do. You know,
It's like getting promoted. It's like getting promoted from the practice squad to the active roster. You know,
exactly.
you're in. You're
exactly.
in,
Had to have a matching mug. You know. So.
All right. So, Bo, we see you. We did not catch the end of your monologue. I don't know if you can hear us or not.
You were talking about Roger Goodell. Yes.
Right before the punchline of finally
Yes.
good something happening to
Tom Brady.
Okay, there you go. Tom Brady. All right. And then I think you were going to ask me how I'm doing. So listen, let's, this is the equivalent, I believe, of we had the chat about how Zach, what was the piece of news you were sleeping for? Doug Peterson had got COVID?
Yes,
Was that
I took Advil PM and
Okay.
and my wife's urging, and Doug Peterson got COVID. Yes.
Okay. And we could tell for weeks, that that kind of ate at you. It really shouldn't have. I would say multiply that by about 50, and that's what this is going to be like for Bo. I mean, really, this is, I think this is, if he had to rank his favorite parts about his job, I mean, the guy's on paternity leave and he wrote this monologue. He came up with all these categories. Zach, how many text exchanges did we have where Zach and I are like, we could probably just wait till April to do the
Exactly.
Ospreys. Like, we really are going to have about 4 months where nothing's going on.
Yep.
And Bo's like, no, you have to get it done before the start of the new league year. And so that is what we did. So
Sheil's been killing himself with free agency. We could have waited until May and June. And we had to get it in tonight. Yes.
So Bo, basically, I think, I don't know if commenters want to chime in here. Do we want to postpone this for another night when you are on better Wi-Fi? Do you want me to start reading some categories? We really hear that static from you. It just sounds like you're
maybe
typing.
turn your volume down a little.
It's kind of sounds like you're typing
It's not
nonstop there. We've really already done a half an hour podcast here. So, Zach and I could knock out a couple other Eagles related topics if we want. And I would be happy to delay this for another time. What does everyone else think?
Why don't we do that?
Okay.
While we're just debating here, we should read a note from one of our sponsors, and this is an appropriate one right now. Is your Wi-Fi struggling to keep up with your streaming, work, gaming, video calling, and more? What about all at once? When you're connected to your world by Wi-Fi, be sure it's the best. Bring your Wi-Fi up to speed with Orbi Wi-Fi 6 from Netgear. Orbi Wi-Fi 6 is the best and latest in Wi-Fi. It covers your entire home with unmatched speeds and performance for uninterrupted working and learning, video calling, and streaming at home on more devices than ever before in any part of the house. With Wi-Fi this advanced, you're going to want it everywhere. Ready for the best Wi-Fi ever? Find out what makes Netgear America's #1 choice for Wi-Fi at netgear.com/best Wi-Fi. That's netgear.com/best Wi-Fi. For Bo's in-laws, if you're listening, that's netgear.com/best Wi-Fi.
Yeah, so we'll definitely get to some Eagles talk here. But before we do that, I got to tell you about BetMGM with the NBA season in full swing. Baseball getting underway and the NCAA tourney and the Masters right around the corner. The sports calendar is officially heating up, and that means now is the perfect time to take your sports fan couch experience to the next level by getting in on the action yourself. The Athletic has partnered with BetMGM, the king of sports books, to bring you the latest odds and exclusive offers to bring you closer to the game than ever. Subscribers of The Athletic get in-depth analysis from our newsroom, plus insight into the latest betting trends and odds from BetMGM's team of experts, getting you the context you need to nail your next pick or parlay. Right now, BetMGM is offering Birds with Friends listeners a risk-free bet up to $600. Just sign up at betmgm.com and use the bonus code BIRDS to take advantage of this special offer from the king of sportsbooks. I like to throw a little lettuce down on the college hoops games that will be coming up. I don't think I've watched a college basketball game all year. You know what, Zach? I know you have, so I'm going to get some advice for you. Sit down on the couch on a Thursday and a Friday afternoon, put some lettuce on that. So this offer is for new customers. That's a risk-free bet up to $600 at betmgm.com with the bonus code BIRDS. Visit betmgm.com for terms and conditions. Must be 21 years of age or older to wager. Colorado, Indiana, Iowa, Michigan, New Jersey, Nevada, Pennsylvania, Tennessee, Virginia, or West Virginia only. Excludes Michigan. Disassociated persons. Please gamble responsibly. Gambling problem, call 1-800-522-4700 in Colorado, Nevada, and Virginia. 1-800-270-7117 for confidential help in Michigan. 1-800-GAMBLER in New Jersey, Pennsylvania, and West Virginia. And 1-800-BETS-OFF in Iowa. In Tennessee, call or text the red line at 800-889-9789. If you or someone you know has a gambling problem and wants help, call 1-800-9-WITH-IT. In Indiana. Promotional offer not available in Nevada. Okay. Let's get to some Eagles talk. People are saying you guys got all dressed up. Specifically, Marissa got all dressed up.
I'll get dressed up again.
This was fun. Yeah, I kind of liked it. I tied a tie. I looked in the mirror. My hair was getting a little. I actually did the pre-shave. I like to get the second day of the bald head. If I'm got something going, I don't want to shave it that morning. You might get a little nick. You might not get a spot. It's not going to look good. But why are you still here? What is your plan? What are you doing?
I don't know. I just
the
worst night of my life.
Well, that means you've lived a great life. It's the worst night of your life. Listen, don't take it hard. Here's what you do. People say you do have to dress in your father-in-law's outfit next time. We'll wait till you're
not on his Wi-Fi.
Yeah, we'll wait till you're on more reliable Wi-Fi. I will say you might have to, do another little monologue, a little opening. You might have to write another one up. We've got all your categories. We've got all that work done.
And so you sound pretty good right now.
You sound a little better now.
Okay.
No. Okay. All right. Well, so I guess you just want to listen, or are you chiming in? I mean, you feel lonely. Okay. You feel lonely. You want to be around your friends. This really is you're happy.
It's such a bad night for me that I need the camaraderie.
Okay, maybe if you want to say something, just so this has been probably the worst audio experience anyone could ask for in a podcast. So if you want to say something, maybe just raise your hand or something, and we'll go to you. That way, you're not cutting in and out, interrupting, or do you want to just try to chime in and see what happens?
I'm just going to say, I want to apologize to the listeners. I know they've been excited for the Ospreys as I have. We count down to this event every day of the year. And so I will say right now, my promise to the listeners and the loyal Birds with Friends lovers, that next year's Ospreys will be in person. I make that promise now. That's the only way that we can possibly make up for this debacle. We'll fly in.
It's like 2 hours from us. Yeah.
And we'll fly her in. And from that, I will let you guys take it away, and I'm just going to sit here and listen because I'm going to listen to the show too, and hopefully we can right this wrong at some point.
I'm going to love, by the way, someone in the accounting department going through the expense reports, and it's like, Super Bowl, Combine, Ospreys. Oh, okay, of course, yes.
I was going to say, a guy who's been very skeptical, or not skeptical, but realistic in many ways, but leaning on the conservative side with the epidemic, and COVID feels good enough that by this time next year, he thinks we can just have a live in-person party. So there you go. That's something to look forward to. Everyone should be encouraged by that. All right, Z-Berm, let's knock out some Eagles talk here, okay? This is all improv. This is testing our, let's say we were walking down Market Street and an executive at WIP popped out and said, Zach, Sheil, we need someone to host the 8:50 to 9:30 block. No prep. Can you guys
come ambitious. In and do it? 40 minutes. Yeah, I like it.
I mean, I don't know. Well, you got commercials and all that.
Sure.
In radio. Can you do it? And this is what we would have to do. So, all right, I've got a topic that I want to start on. If you've got anyone you want to hit on, anything you want to hit on, anyone you want to hit on. Also, we are a word show. You can message me. You can bring it up if anybody has, questions they want to get to. Leave them in the chat. But here's what I want to get to, Zach, because we talked in we wrote on The Athletic about free agency, specifically from an Eagles perspective. We went position by position. We each picked who we thought was the most likely player they could target. But I thought what was most interesting about that exercise was what we did for our wild card category. And so basically the idea was, let's say, Howie Roseman's feeling himself a little bit. It's the first, let's say, 3-4 days of free agency. There's a player out there who hasn't been signed. We've all heard Howie tell this story before, right? Oh, we didn't think we were going to be able to get this guy, but then I kept in touch with his agent, and next one thing led to another, and we got him. And so we don't expect the Eagles to be huge players, but we did answer that question. Who's that guy who would be in my top 50 list here, who the Eagles could potentially surprise? And we're saying, how did they afford that? What kind of cap maneuverings did they do to sign this guy? But, it kind of makes sense with the direction of their franchise. Who is a guy you think could fit that category?
Well, I don't want to jump on your guy because you and I actually had the same person.
Go ahead.
And so the person that came to mind when we had that exercise, it was John Johnson III, I should say, from the Los Angeles Rams. Fits a lot of what the Eagles would like in a safety. I'll actually defer to you in terms of evaluating him, but in terms of the age profile, in terms of everything I've heard about him from the character profile, health-wise, style of play, and position of need. Now, that being said, safety is a position that has thinned when you've looked at the franchise tags. So John Johnson might well be the top safety on the market at this point, especially after you saw Justin Simmons, Marcus May, Marcus Williams, all getting the tag. So then I will go with the guy who I ended up writing about, and that was Corey Davis. Now, in wide receiver is the position kind of on the other side of it. It's probably the deepest position in free agency. So that's the position where there might be a player who fits the description you said, where they were expecting bigger money, but some of those seats were filled. He's kind of sitting there. The price is different. Well, I don't think Corey Davis is going to be that type of player because of the age profile. But look, the number 5 pick in the draft, we know the Eagles were interested in him back in 2017. Coming off the best season of his career, the Titans, in my opinion, I speculate in John Robinson's opinion, made a mistake not giving him the 5th-year option. He's the kind of guy they should, they are probably regretting that now. But when you look at the size, he can be the X receiver that the Eagles need. And the Eagles could very well have the philosophy that they had in 2017, which was they've tried in the draft a few times to add to the position. It hasn't worked, so they're going to plug it in free agency. That's when they went and they signed Alshon Jeffrey. They signed Torrey Smith. Now, I think when you look at where the Eagles are drafting, they're going to have a good chance to take a potential difference maker at wide receiver this year. But if they're sitting there saying, look, we've tried to address this position, we haven't hit on it yet. This is a ripe free agency class. Some guys are going to make less than they would make in a different year. Corey Davis would be the ideal player for what the Eagles are seeking. He can be their number 1 receiver and upgrade their offense tomorrow.
Yeah, the Titans have really had a disastrous stretch here. I mean, you mentioned that. You're right. They declined his 5th-year option. I'm sure people saw the news. They trade Isaiah Wilson, their first-round pick from last year, for a 7th-round pick swap. The guy plays 3 plays for them. Last offseason, they signed Vic Beasley on a 1-year, $9 million contract. He's gone after 5 games. Jadeveon Clowney, they signed to a $13 million contract. He played 8 games without a sack. Marissa, it sounds like you put the curse. I don't know when you did this, but you had to have put the curse on the Titans at some point because I think they are going to take a huge drop off this year.
Well, I mean, they couldn't have done it last year when I had the under.
Yeah, I would say take the under. Definitely ride with that. Don't come off that floor. Let's give you the under right now for the Titans for 2021. Corey Davis is an interesting name, Zach, for sure. I think he would definitely fit. I think he's got the ceiling of like a solid number 2 receiver. And I do think there's upside there. If you feel like he's going to mature a little bit later, if you're a more pass heavy offense, I still like the skill set, not just from when he was drafted, but even if you watch the plays that he does make, they are impressive plays. He's not just going through the motions and somebody who's wide open. So that is a good name. John Johnson, like you mentioned, is the guy who I think we both had targeted there first. And so I was looking at this and thinking, all right, let's say they have a little money to spend. and there's a guy who doesn't get signed right away. Who could they go after? And so in my mind, I'm thinking, all right, it's got to be someone who's like no older than, 27, 28 years old max. There's no point in signing a guy older than that right now. And then I'm looking at positions of need, and, not to say that they're set for like the next 3 years at O-line and D-line, but I do think they have options there. And that's the one area where they have some young players. You have some guys on the roster you kind of want to see, are they going to develop like Jordan Mailata, right? Let's see. He might be the answer. He might not be. That's kind of what 2021 is going to be about. And so I looked at safety and thought, well, Rodney McLeod is 31 and coming off a season-ending injury. Kayvon Wallace, maybe he'll pan out. I mean, 4th-round picks, those are lottery tickets. It's not like you're penciling him in for a safety spot. And I looked at John Johnson and I said, all right, he's 25 years old. And what's really interesting about this is the scheme that the Eagles, we think are going to employ this year. It's going to be different. We think that they're going to move to more a 2-deep safety look. We think they're going to play more zone coverage. And what's interesting is that the positions you would typically target with the Eagles defensive scheme playing the way like the Colts played last year or like the Vikings have played in the past, these are places where Jonathan Gannon, the defensive coordinator, came from, are different than some of the positions that the Eagles target. For example, if they made this change last offseason, there's no chance you make that trade for Darius Slay. I mean, I think we were, probably saying you shouldn't have made that trade anyway, but this is going to be heavy zone coverage and 2 deep looks. Well, where did John Johnson come from? He came from a scheme that played a lot of 2 deep coverages and was zone heavy. And he played, I think, over 250 snaps at slot corner, at free safety, and at strong safety. And so he was a versatile player. He called the signals for that Rams defense. He was said to be like a great locker room guy, a great leader, have all those intangibles, all those different things. And the safety market is not like out of whack. If you're looking at, all right, a top edge rusher, a top wide receiver, you're talking $18-20 million. Safety is different. The top of that market is $14 million. And so if he's not coming in at the top of that market, you're saying, all right, is he like an $11 million player, a year player? And that all of a sudden becomes a lot more affordable. So that's why I thought that would be potentially a player that they could look at, just sort of a young leader. Hey, we know we're not going to be good next year, but if we're good in 2 years, if we're good in 3 years, this is somebody who could just be hitting his prime at that point and could look like a good signing. So maybe that's a guy who could make sense for them.
And by the way, if the Eagles are able to, if you're trying to figure out how they can fit a guy into their cap situation, there's a lot of maneuvering they must do here. But if they can give a 4 or 5 year contract to somebody, you can spread that bonus out and then put a low base year salary here in 2021. And I know there's some projection involved, but you're assuming the cap is going to go up quite a bit, quite significantly because of the TV money. As a matter of fact, I saw a quote from Jerry Jones today, basically suggesting that and referencing that with the Dak Prescott deal. So if the Eagles are saying, they're going to get some of these bad contracts off the books this year, if you give a 2-year deal, you can't do that because you can't spread the bonus money out. But if you give a 4 or 5 year deal, they could be able to get, a guy whose annual average salary is in that, 10 plus million range because they'll be able to spread the bonus money.
Bo, do you have anything to say? Are you enjoying the show? All right, I think Bo is mute. Okay,
I am enjoying the show. I was going to say that part of the calculation on like who could be the wild card is like who could still be available, like who, like what you were talking about, like we were surprised this guy is still out there, like who has a reason that they could still be out there. So I was trying to think about that as well, and like Will Fuller is going to get paid a ton of money, but maybe because he's got the suspension and the injury history, maybe he's waiting, like he's out there a little bit longer than you might expect. Somebody like that. That's all.
Yeah, I don't know if Will Fuller's going to get paid a ton of money. I mean, really, you would have to be a sort of crazy GM with his injury history and the 1 year he's avoiding that injury history, he gets suspended for PEDs. I mean, should be like the poster child for a red flag free agent. I'm not saying he's not a good player. He's an outstanding player, but I could see him signing a 1-year deal, trying to juice up his value. No pun intended.
No pun intended.
and then re-entering the market next year. And I think you're right, Zach. I'm curious to see what this free agency period is like. I almost feel like it's being overdone a little bit with the cap thing. I'm not saying every team's going to be able to spend. Like, the Eagles cannot just do whatever they want and sign, $15 million a year type players. But I think, a big chunk of, like, certainly the top 50, maybe even the top 100 are going to find deals because of what you just said. I mean, what did we just see? Who was the person who just signed? Levante David, right? So Levante David signs with the Bucks, and it's a 2-year, $25 million contract, but it's what a lot of these teams do anyway. The Eagles do it. The Saints do it. You add voidable years to the end, and all that does is just what you said. It takes that signing bonus and it spreads it out over more years. And so the bill comes due eventually. You still have to account for it on the cap, but if you're accounting for it in 3 years from now, I mean, we don't know, but I don't get the sense that these NFL owners are, like, very responsible where, like, they're like, oh, got to stay under our budget because things aren't going to bounce back. These GMs, they're going to be like, please give me a break. In 3 years, the league is going to be thriving. The league got off all its games during a pandemic. If a pandemic can't, stop us totally, then we're going to be fine going forward. So I do think there's going to be a lot of big contracts being handed out. And the other thing I was looking at when I looked at specifically the Eagles defense and how it might be different is that, like, linebacker is a very different position for a Jonathan Gannon, a cover 2 type defense than it was for the Eagles previously. Do you think that would be an area where are they going to change their mind about linebacker at all, or is it going to be business as usual here going forward?
I'm fascinated to see because Howie Roseman's still in charge, and Howie Roseman still has a way of building the team, and they're going to put money into more premium positions. But I think it's fairly clear that they can't go with the strategy that they've utilized the past 2 years in particular and expect anything to be different because and look, I've spoken to people in the organization about this, and their line has been that there's some positions where you just need to draft and develop well, but they've neither drafted well nor developed well. And so, like, is that automatically going to change? Well, the best way to change that would be to either draft someone early, which I can't see them doing, maybe second round. But even that's ambitious. And then, or sign a guy comparable. You don't do the signings like, these LJ4, Jatavius Brown type signings where, you are really doing the bargain basement. Even if you don't do top of the market, you can do what you did with Nigel Bradham in 2016, where you're signing like a solid starter with upside, who's kind of in the prime of his career. Right. And so that would probably take them out of the Jayon Brown, market. But there are guys who fit that who they have starting experience. They're competent players. They're in that 25, 26, 27-year-old range, and they would be day one upgrades for you. So I wouldn't rule that out. Certainly not.
Yeah, I think you can really compare it to running back for them. I think that they're not going to be paying top of the market. They're not going to be using a first-round pick there, but like a second round, Michael Kendricks was a second round pick, right? And that was under Howie. Certainly the running backs you've seen them take, LaShawn McCoy, Miles Sanders over the years, like they'll spend a second round pick on that position. So I think that would be ideal for them. Even if you look at the Colts, Darius Leonard, he was a second round pick, I believe, right? So
yes, he was.
It would not shock me if they spent a day 2 pick. Now I guess they spent a day 2 pick on a linebacker last year, but hopefully you would get somebody who is going to, profiles a higher ceiling, I would say. We were saying on draft night, Davion Taylor is a sub-package player, and did this makes that's kind of his ceiling, and does that make sense? So I think if you could find a middle linebacker who has great leadership qualities and can stay on the field for 3 downs, even if it's not an all-pro caliber guy, but just like a competent or a slightly above average guy on day 2, potentially that would make sense. All right. What else do we want to get to? I have one more question for you. And then if anybody has a question about a specific free agent you want to hear us talk about as we close out here with the last segment, leave it in the chat and we will make sure we talk about that. Zach, in terms of trades, we could see trades as you go through these team needs. There are situations where just teams are not going to be able to sign guys they want at positions of need. And so there will be another market there. Who are some Eagles names that stand out? I'm sure we've talked about some of these guys, but if you had to name I don't know, 2 guys, 3 guys, whatever you want to do, who you feel like will be traded by the Eagles here between now and let's say the draft. It doesn't even have to be in the next week. Who are some names that come to mind?
Well, Zach Ertz, that's obviously not an original one, but I would imagine that will be done before the league year. I'm curious to see where he goes, and I've been on record saying I think he's going to be a good player where he goes next. I think he's going to be a Pro Bowl tight end. I just think, and you did that great story on him back in 2018. He's a tight end who I think is going to age well, and I think there's some recency bias. Last year was the first time he really had that a major injury. During the, it was an ankle injury, but, I guess I got concussion's a major injury too. I don't want to be a concussion uncle here, but the type of injury that has kept him out for an extended period of time, right?
Also fractured his ribs.
Yes, but I'm saying the type of injury that has kept him out for extended period of time.
Thanks, Bo.
Yes. So I did not phrase that well.
Fractured his lung or something like that? Punctured his lung?
Yeah.
The guy's never even lost a limb. Come on.
But I think he's a better player than he was last season. So who else would I put on that list? We mentioned Brandon Brooks at the top. I don't think Brandon Brooks is going to be traded just because I don't think financially it makes much sense for the type of return that they're going to get. But I would not rule it out. And I've written this and I've said this and I strongly believe it. If you are an expensive veteran on the Eagles, you should not be safe. And if Carson Wentz could be traded, anyone could be traded. And certainly a 31-year-old guard coming off a major injury would fit in that category, no matter how good a player he is. I just don't know if you're going to get the type of compensation that would merit taking on that cap hit, at least doing so before June 1st. And then outside of him, I think you might be looking at some of these, an Andre Dillard type, although I'm not sure that that's something they would do before they get these guys on the field to see how they both look. JJ Arcega-Whiteside, maybe my underachiever for your underachiever. They don't really have anyone
I want to move a JJ Arcega-Whiteside to a tight end. I mean, really, this is what
I think
they
you have
should
a better
be doing.
chance of moving him elsewhere. Right?
Really? Why? I mean, why can't he be? I mean, Dallas Goedert can do it all, right? He can block. If JJ Arcega-Whiteside is lining up at tight ends and getting more favorable matchups, and you can help him find soft spots in zone coverage, like you're telling me that guy can't give you what Richard Rodgers gave you, just stand in the back of the end zone and catch some touchdowns?
I mean, look, if he's your number 3 tight end behind Kyle Pitts and Dallas Goedert, I am fine. Okay, so
if you move JJ Arcega-Whiteside to tight end, it'd be a top 10 pick.
This is what happened. I mean, even a guy like Dan Arnold, I'm seeing some buzz on a guy like Dan Arnold, who is, for those of you, I would hope you have no idea who that is. If you do, you have a problem.
No, if you're reading Sheil stuff, you could.
Cardinals tight end, kind of worked his way. Was a former wide receiver, I believe. I think he's 6'6", 220. And it's like you can, I feel like you should be able to do that. So I don't know that they should assign one coach to just be like, listen, this is your pet project. JJ Arcega-Whiteside is going to be on the roster next year. Find a way to maximize what we can get out of him. Do whatever you want, and let's see where we end up. If that were me, I would say, all right, JJ, come over here with the tight ends.
Well, by the way, so they have, I believe, they have 4 tight ends under contract right now. 2 of them fit the profile of a player you just described. One being Hakeem Butler. Well, I should say they have 5 tight ends because I did not include Zach Ertz in that mix, but 4 tight ends who you are expecting to bring with you this summer. One being Hakeem Butler, who was a was the 4th round pick or 3rd round pick, a wide receiver out of Iowa State, a program that this coaching staff has very close connections to, was a stud at Iowa State.
For an Osprey award, just to put that in
Okay. We will get to that when we do the Ospreys. Yes. And the Eagles are converting him to tight end. And then also Tyree Jackson, who was a quarterback at Buffalo, who the Eagles signed to do a Logan Thomas type conversion. So the Eagles are very much thinking that way.
Logan Thomas had like 600 yards last year. Did you know that? I did, because as part of these exercises, I'm going through every roster and, looking at needs, and I'm like, I knew Logan Thomas flashed a little bit. I mean, he almost had as many yards as Hunter Henry, who's going to get, overpaid at $10 million a year or something like that.
Well, the Patriots, he'd be a good fit for the Patriots. That's a really tough scheme to play tight end in. And so you can sign a guy like Hunter Henry and step right in and be a major upgrade for them. Yep.
Okay. A couple questions came in. Someone asked about Yannick Ngakoue, because there were some rumors of the Eagles with Ngakoue last year.
Great job,
you think he's a top 10 free agent, Sheil?
Yeah, a guy tweeted at me. I teased out my tweet, and I just said, all right, these are the guys who have been tagged. Here are the top 5 free agents, and link to it. And some guy quote tweeted me with a LOL, Yannick is not a top 10 free agent. And so, I was upset about it. I don't know. I was annoyed by it. I was like, sometimes you have to exercise restraint, and you're just like, I want to crush this guy right now. Like, get out of here. I've written about 150 free agents. I think I know if Yannick Ngakoue is a top 10 free agent, whoever the hell you are. But I'm like, all right, I'm not going to tweet that at this guy right now. But Bo, I think, was more annoyed than even I was. So Bo had a little tweet back at him. And so finally I settled on, I'm going to wait till Yannick Ngakoue gets a big contract. And then I'll say, well, maybe it's a night where I'm having a couple beverages, and then I'll decide, whether to just retweet that guy or just ask him if he still thinks Yannick Ngakoue is a top 10 free agent. Anyway, Ngakoue, you're looking at, $16-17 million a year, I would say, minimum. That's not going to be like a short-term deal or anything like that. So no, I don't think Ngakoue, that would surprise me if he were somebody that they went after. And also, it's a position where you have 2 young, talented players on the roster, and you have to kind of decide what to do with them. Someone asked about a wide receiver on a 1-year, under $9 million a year contract. T.Y. Hilton, they mentioned. No, I don't think T.Y. Hilton would make any sense for them. He's clearly in the decline stage of his career. I'll give you a little tease. I've got T.Y. Hilton going to the Kansas City Chiefs. How about that? Little 1-year, little short-term deal, replaces Sammy Watkins. He's not going to be getting the number 1 corner. You team him with a Tyreek Hill and a Travis Kelce. Maybe he's someone who could thrive, maybe chase a Super Bowl ring. If you were a receiver and you get a chance to be like a top 3 receiver with Patrick Mahomes, you probably just do it, right? Juice those stats a little bit, re-enter the market next year. It's like, if you're an edge rusher, I would just go sign with the Rams, play with Aaron Donald for a year. This has happened 2 years in a row. Dante Fowler does it. You're going to get 10 sacks, bank the next year. Leonard Floyd is probably going to be the same scenario. So I'll give you another tease. How about Jadeveon Clowney to the Rams? Couldn't you see them just being, everyone's like, absolutely. Oh boy, Los Angeles, they're the star power of Jadeveon Clowney. So I've got them taking a flyer on him. The receiver question, 1 year makes it tough. I mean, maybe a guy like Marvin Jones, he's probably looking at around under 9 million, I would say, 8 million a year.
He's going to the Rams.
You think Marvin? Oh, really?
Yeah,
okay. I like that prediction.
Yeah. He's going to the Rams. Him and Stafford are close. He's from that area.
I could have used you all day for the 12 hours it took me to write this stupid thing. I'll text you next time. All right. I like that one.
I think he's a Ram next year.
I was just going to say, let me say on Marvin Jones, his numbers are crazy over the last 5 years. I mean, a lot of it is counting numbers, but do you know he's 7th among wide receivers in touchdowns over the last 5 years?
Yep. Yeah.
That's great. I do, of course. All right.
He was a real so he was a really good signing. When he's the type of signing, if the Eagles had more money, like when he was going from Cincinnati to Detroit, you're looking for that type of player. But the type of contract you're talking about is really what I would call like the Nelson Aguilar memorial contract, or not memorial contract, but Nelson Aguilar contract, right? A guy whose stock is down, who signs that 1-year deal to a place where he's going to get playing time, and then he earns the bigger deal. So Bo mentioned Will Fuller. I think Will Fuller is going to get paid, but Will Fuller would be that type of candidate for the reasons Bo mentioned, like coming off suspension. He has the injury history. He might want to rebuild his stock. Look, he comes back to his hometown. He could be the number 1 receiver here.
The guy.
Give me an offseason, by the way, where the Eagles sign Will Fuller, draft Kyle Pitts in the first round, and Christian Barmore in the second round. You're not supposed to, you're supposed to be very neutral about the teams you cover. If they hit the trifecta with like Philly guys, that would be good content. So but Will Fuller's a guy who fits that category. Sammy Watkins might be a guy who could potentially fit that category. Perriman was that type of player.
I'll give a thumbs down to that.
AJ Green's a little too old. I'm going down.
I mean, I don't like John Ross. I don't think he's going to amount to anything. But that fits the Nelson Aguilar description you're saying, because I mean, John Ross could be out of the league if he doesn't do something this year. Will Fuller, if I'm a team that is competing for a Super Bowl this year, then I take a 1-year flyer on Will Fuller. I mean, I just don't see how, if you're a GM, that you can use your money to sign Will Fuller and commit to him for more than 1 year, given the injury history and the suspension. But we will certainly see there. I'm looking at some of these other names on here. I mean, a guy, I think Bo liked to Keelan Cole a little bit. Mm-hmm. Right, Bo? You were somewhat interested in him. I mean,
for like $1 million.
Yeah, I mean, he's not going to light it up, but if he could he potentially be a solid number 2 wide receiver for no money? Yes, he could be that. If you're looking at not a 1-year deal, I mean, I don't know if these guys are going to have to take 1-year deals, but I like a Rashard Higgins. I know Marissa likes a Rashard Higgins from the Cleveland Browns, 26 years old. I think maybe there's like a little bit of upside there. I know you guys were gassing up Josh Reynolds, which I disagreed with, but I mean, I think all those guys, they're not going to be making, you said under $9 million. I don't think any of those guys are going to be making that type of money. Okay.
But I think those guys you want to be signing to like a 2-year deal with upside, right?
3-4 years. Yeah.
Like a Kendrick Bourne, right? You want to be taking a swing where it's going to pay off for you, because next year doesn't matter.
Exactly. So that is the weird situation they're in. Bo has just been in there. What room is this, Bo, that you're in at the in-laws house?
This is the playroom.
Okay. Bo is in the playroom. He's showing us the toys there.
That angle of Bo's head and the toys in the background.
This is like the Ellen selfie at the Oscars.
Yes.
Now, what's the
wait? Someone in the chat called the next one the 2nd, 4th annual Ospreys, and I definitely think that's what we need to call it. The 2nd, 4th annual. Yeah.
What's the beverage situation there, Bo? I'm kind of afraid about how much I think you're gonna drown your sorrows. Maybe in some beverages after this. Is there?
Yeah,
is the fridge stocked? Okay. All right.
Long trail IPA.
So Bo is drinking an IPA in the playroom of his in-laws' house on what he termed the worst night of his life, if anyone wants to know about that. All right. So, Zach, give us the schedule, because I don't think we're doing we're not doing a show until things probably start happening next week. So, Phil, Bo, can you go back on mute to get rid of that static for us? And Zach, what do you got?
I just wanted a very brief discussion here. We're not at draft talk yet, right? I get that, but Sheil's good friend Daniel Jeremiah did a marathon conference call yesterday. I was on the call, and I've made these allusions or these references during this podcast to Kyle Pitts, but Daniel Jeremiah was like adamant, like not even opining, was adamant that this is the no-brainer selection for the Eagles, that if he's on the board, he said, I don't know if it's 10 minutes, 15 minutes in the first round, but you don't even take the whole, like you go up and get it. He said you take Kyle Pitts over Jamar Chase. He gave a handful of reasons. He mentioned something that we talked about on the pod a few weeks ago, when if he was a wide receiver, you'd be talking about him as a top 10, top 15 pick. He's like an absolute matchup nightmare, changes games, changes the way defenses
I hate that. Then why doesn't he play wide receiver?
Well, because
really, there's more money in that. There are more job opportunities in that. Everything about playing wide, you don't have to block. Everything about playing wide receiver is better than tight end. So when I read if he was a wide receiver, if he just changed the thing next to his name to WR, he would be this. I think no, he wouldn't, because then somebody would have just said, we're changing him to wide receiver right now. Why the hell are we playing this guy at tight end?
Well, look, you can play him at the X if you want. A few other things he mentioned was how someone in the league pointed out to him, when you look at the franchise tag values between wide receiver and tight end, there's this market inefficiency in the tight end second contract, that if your tight end, frankly, look at the Kansas City Chiefs, what they're paying Travis Kelce, who's effectively their number one receiver, compared to what other number one receivers are making. So
these are two guys. You're talking about two guys. You're talking Travis Kelce and George Kittle, who very well, by the end of their careers, may go down as two of the top 3, 5 tight ends of all time. I mean, that's the ceiling. I mean, think of what he has to be to justify that value. What you're saying is that that's who he has to be. And there's no room for anything else.
But the franchise tag thing is the dumbest thing I've ever heard. You cannot be taking a guy based on a market inefficiency 5 years down the road that could be corrected over the next couple of years. If you think he's a worse player, it's the dumbest thing I've ever heard.
But the point being that he might be the best player in the draft. Bob McGinn, our colleague at The Athletic, who talked to all these scouts for a piece that's out there today you should read, was saying that I think the quote was, he has the best chance of being a Hall of Famer of anyone in this draft class. Bruce Feldman has a great piece on The Athletic where he did his mock draft based on what college coaches were saying, and just read what's said in there about Kyle Pitts. And so I know this is a polarizing topic, and frankly, if the Eagles took Jamar Chase, it probably wouldn't be good content in our grading the pick series, because we would all be like, yeah, this is a smart, sensible pick, right? Oh, and the other thing I should say too, another point Daniel Jeremiah made was that you can go back in the second round or the third round or the fourth round and find a starting quality wide receiver. There's a big difference between Pitts.
You know how starting tight end.
What? None of the best tight ends have gotten taken in the first round. What are you talking about? Every tight end who gets taken in the first round stinks. And George Kittle and Travis Kelce and Rob Gronkowski. None of these guys, the NFL hasn't figured out tight end where they know who the best guys are. They take freaking TJ Hawkinson. What the hell has TJ Hawkinson done in 2 years? I mean, no one would say that was a good pick looking back at it. I could bring up the whole list of first round pick tight ends. Now, I need to be clear here. I've done no homework on Kyle Pitts, okay? I've been drowning in free agency.
Yes. Yeah.
I'm gonna start getting all my draft takes ready. I might think that I might agree with everyone. I mean, I probably should. Everybody has this guy in the Hall of Fame. He might be fantastic. What I'm arguing against is all the reasons for taking a tight end with the number 6 pick, not the player. So especially, he's a Philly guy. I don't want it to sound like I'm crushing this guy. I hope he does have a Hall of Fame career. I would probably just let somebody else take that gamble.
There's a line in, I believe, the McGinn piece that solidified for me how dumb this is, when someone said, I was a little bit worried about him as a blocker in 2019, but he really addressed that this year. Who cares?
So we'll have a lot of time during the next 2 months to talk about Kyle Pitts, but I wanted to bring that up. But the thing I would add is all the things you guys are saying are valid. And look, if you're not going to draft him based on positional value, that's certainly a defensible position in my opinion. That being said, the rationale that I will not accept, I will not accept that as if like I am the arbiter of this.
Favorite thing. Bo loves this when you just go big on something.
Very quickly, positional value is a croc, not a gator.
Oh, there you go. That's a good joke.
Thanks for unmuting for that, Bo.
And look, I am a sucker for Kyle Pitts because he's just like when you watch him play, he is incredible. He is the best player on the field in every game he's out there.
What did he have? Like 700 yards?
I have to look up the numbers. He was an absolute like matchup nightmare. But anyway, so what I was saying is the rationale that doesn't fly with me is that, well, Dallas Goedert's on the roster, and this is like one position where the Eagles don't need to worry about. I've said this before, and I will say this for the next, I think it's 50 days from now until the draft. The Eagles can't think about anyone on their roster. The only, with the number 6 pick, the only thing they need to think about, my iPad just fell. The only thing they need to think about is who has the best chance of being an elite player for them. They can't think about Andre Dillard and Jordan Mailata at left tackle. They can't think about Jalen Hurts at quarterback. They can't think about Dallas Goedert at tight end. I don't think they're in a position where there's a defensive end there. But the only thing that they need to think about is who is the best player for the next 10 years for the Philadelphia Eagles. If they start making decisions based on their depth chart now, then they could be passing on a difference maker because of a guy who like Dallas Goedert's good, but you don't pass on Michael Jordan because Clyde Drexler's on your team, right? Like you take the best guy out there and then you figure it out from there.
I would agree with the part about don't worry who's on your roster right now. But I still think positional value
absolutely.
That's a different conversation. I mean, let's say in this hypothetical where they take Kyle Pitts, I mean, I would have Dallas Goedert out the door, within 5 minutes. You can trade Dallas Goedert. You can get, I would think you can get a second round. Hayden Hurst got a second round pick, right? Yeah. Goddard's a better player than Hayden Hurst for sure. And it's not a great free agent market for tight end. So you really could trade Dallas Goedert and get someone for him. Now, please do not give me the garbanzo beans, 12 personnel. We're going to be the whatever year Patriots. I mean, really, the year is 2021. Don't give me that nonsense anymore. Get some wide receivers on the field and go that way. I feel like there was something else I was going to say that I forgot about, but that's okay. All right. Good draft talk.
So the schedule coming up, and by the way, you mentioned the tight end class, sleeper tight end in this class, another Philly native, Jonnu Smith. So I had to give a shout out to Philly.
I got him going to a place Eagles fans won't like.
Where's that?
New England Patriots. You mentioned Hunter Henry.
Oh, yeah.
I could see them liking a Jonnu Smith.
Look, that'd be a sensible signing, Philly native. So what's coming up? Next Monday, really, the tampering period begins. Okay. And then the 7th, I said next Monday, this Monday coming up, the tampering period begins. The 17th, the league year begins. And so a lot of these reported signings are going to come out between, during the tampering period. That's when we heard about Hargrave last year. That's when really things really pick up. So Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, leading up to the start of the league year, you're going to see a lot. But the 17th is important for a few reasons. Obviously, that's the start of the league year, so things can become official. But the Eagles need to be cap compliant by the 17th. Okay. Players who are on their I shouldn't bury the lead here. All these trades that we've been talking about become official. So Carson Wentz is no longer a member of the Philadelphia Eagles as of 4 p.m. on March 17th. There are contracts such as those of players on fifth-year options like Derek Barnett who become guaranteed by 4 p.m. on March 17th. And we will hopefully hear from Howie Roseman and Nick Sirianni, not on the 17th, but I would hope a few days thereafter. So things will really start to accelerate on Monday. Wednesday is when these things become official. And even if the Eagles are not, and so Tuesday and Wednesday things will trickle out. And I think Thursday and Friday next week, there will be some news as well. So it's going to be a very eventful week, unlike Major League Baseball. By like next Monday, this thing's over, and we start to talk about the draft, right? Like the NFL free agency is really a week, but it's going to be a very busy week. It's going to be huge for Sheil's numbers. Make sure you check out all of Sheil's work, yeah, I always like that. I admit if we did some stories about free agencies of years past, I've had some stressful moments during these times. Some like late nights, some frantic car rides. I went to the private airport where DeMarco Murray's plane was landing. Yes, yeah. I did that. The Maxwell Awards were always on the Friday of free agency, and you could always get Chip Kelly walking out of the Maxwell Awards. So I done some stalking of Chip Kelly in Atlantic City casinos during free agency. I have some other. My first year on the beat, I didn't fully understand the tampering period, and I was on a date during the tampering period, and I had to excuse myself when things were starting to leak out and actually leave the and leave the date. So there are this is a pretty busy week here, and looking forward to it.
I left my wife was waiting for me for dinner. She was visiting when I was at Philly.com during the Brian Dawkins year. And so I'm at the office, and there's this was a different world. Like, I don't even remember if there was Twitter, if Twitter was happening. And so you're just like literally refreshing like Pro Football Talk. And then I'm going to like I forget the guy who was reporting it. I don't think he was a Broncos reporter. Like, he had an in with somehow that he knew that Dawkins was leaving and signing with the Broncos. And so I'm trying to track this guy down. Like I'm like emailing this guy, and it was a different world. But as I've told you guys, every place I've worked at, the interest in free agency, then basically the next 2 months, the interest in free agency, trades, the draft eclipses the interest of what's happening in the season. Of course, if your team's going to the Super Bowl and it's 2017, that's different. But this is the time of year where every fan base is just like, all right, we're going to get this guy, and this guy. We're going to the playoffs next year. It's going to be awesome. And so I have learned to enjoy this period and see where different guys sign and all that. All right, Bo, people want to know if you have a, ballpark date for when the second, fourth annual Ospreys? Is that what? Okay. When the second? When do you want to do this now?
It's up to you guys when I can bother you with it again.
Well, I don't know. Maybe in between free agency and the draft, or do we do it after the draft as a celebration of the? No, that's too late. Okay, I saw your face. I mean, this is why I see this. I don't like when people do this. When I ask them the question and they're supposed to give an answer, and then they throw it back at me, and then then I say something, and then they're not happy with what I said. I mean, I just asked you to say what it should be. So go ahead and tell us when you would like it to be, and then we don't have to go through this whole exercise.
Why don't we do it the week after free agency?
Well, I mean, free agency doesn't just like end one day. What's the week after free agency?
So 2 weeks. 2 weeks from this week.
So that would be Wednesday, March 24th.
If that works for you guys.
I don't think that's going to be a great time for us. I think we should do it. Let's do it.
Yeah, you're good.
Let's do it. Let's book it in for like the first 2 weeks of April sometime. All right. So it'll be in before the draft. I think that'll be a quieter time for all of us. we might, we've gotten through all the big stuff, and we'll do it then. How does that sound? This is really supposed to be like a summer suit. I got the light. This is a light gray. And so, it can kind of expand your wardrobe options a little bit.
I do. You look great.
Thank you. All right. Okay. Well, that will do it for, I think, a very unique episode of Birds with Friends. I see some of you are, still stuck with us. You're sickos, but we thank you for that. I did ask on Twitter, get some reviews on the Apple Podcast page, because I've still got 3 Pasta Physios gift cards to give out, and I didn't give them out today, and so I will give them out maybe next week when we do our show. So get your reviews in. Let us know what you thought about this episode of the Ospreys, what you thought about Bo's opening there, maybe what your favorite joke was. If you want to congratulate Marissa on getting engaged, anything you want to do, go ahead and do that there. Make sure you check out The Athletic. Of course, theathletic.com/birdswithfriends. That's still alive. We are going to be having free agency, trades, all that analyzed in the weeks ahead. So for Marissa, Zach, Bo's in-laws, Netgear, BetMGM, Wi-Fi everywhere. Thank you for listening to Birds with Friends, and we will talk to you next week.